we started making names right away. And I loved it. I was robbing drug dealers, taking their gold right off their neck. And the shit we did, who's gonna call the police on you? A drug dealer?
I can identify with anything that was normal, to be honest with you. But I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah.
99% of the time, you're gonna disagree.
Just like the Donnie Brasco situation with Lefty.
Yeah, because the reason why, they figure it this way. You brought this guy around, he ratted on everybody, now he ratted on you. You might turn around and join him and rat on us, so we get rid of you, there's no connection between there and there, and they get rid of you.
Rapper Fetty Wap has been sentenced to 6 years behind bars. Federal prosecutors were seeking the minimum 5 years in prison. The Paterson, New Jersey native pled guilty in August to conspiracy to distribute and possess cocaine. He and several others were accused of driving to Long Island and buying cocaine by the kilogram and then reselling it in both New Jersey and New York in 2020. So again, he will be sentenced to 6 years. Turning
May 17, 2023, electronically filed Honorable Joanna Sabert, United States District Judge, Eastern District of New York, 100 Federal Plaza, Central Islip, New York 11722, Re, United States v. Willie Jr. Maxwell, 221 CR. 452, JS. Dear Judge Sabert, this memorandum is submitted on behalf of Willie Jr. Maxwell, whose sentencing is currently scheduled for May 24, 2023 at 10:30 in the morning. For the reasons set forth below, it is respectfully asserted that a sentence of 60 months is the appropriate disposition in this case. In furtherance of this submission, attached are letters of support from Mr. Maxwell's friends and family. Exhibit A. Mr. Maxwell was arrested on October 28, 2021. On August 22, 2022, he pled guilty before the Honorable Stephen I. Locke, to count 1 of the 2-count superseding indictment. He was not named in count 2. The lesser included count 2, which Mr. Maxwell pled, charges him with conspiring to distribute at least 500 grams of cocaine, in violation of Title 21 U.S.C. Sections 846, 841A, 1, and B1b. This carries a minimum term of imprisonment of 5 years. Mr. Maxwell accepts full responsibility for his crimes, but his conduct here does not and should not define him. As his friends and family have powerfully written, he is an extremely hard-working individual who has gone to extensive lengths to make certain that his children, extended family and community members are cared for. Given all the facts in this case, a sentence of 5 years is warranted. Circumstances of Mr. Maxwell's life. Mr. Maxwell was raised in an intact, loving family environment. He is the second eldest of 4 children. His father was employed as a truck driver and his mother was a secretary at a church. Mr. Maxwell's parents worked hard to provide for their family, but they still found it difficult to make ends meet. While the family had the basic necessities, their living conditions were cramped and less than ideal. Case 2:21 CR00452 JS SIL Document 183 filed May 17, 2023, page 1 of 6, page ID hash 803. Honorable Joanna Sabert, United States District Judge, May 17, 2023. The family lived in a low-income section of Paterson, New Jersey, where drug use and criminal activity were prevalent. The violent crime rate in Paterson is one of the highest in the nation. According to Neighborhood Scout, your chance of becoming a victim of violent crime is 1 in 135 in Paterson. 1 as a teenager, Mr. Maxwell was robbed at gunpoint near his high school and pistol whipped, causing him to suffer a head injury. In addition, Mr. Maxwell recalls witnessing a street shooting in his neighborhood just steps from where he was walking. From a very early age, Mr. Maxwell was taunted because of his physical appearance. As detailed in the pre-sentence report, PSR, Mr. Maxwell was born with congenital glaucoma in both eyes. The condition was so severe that his left eye was removed prior to his first birthday. He used a glass eye throughout his childhood and underwent 2 additional surgeries at age 10 and 16 to reconstruct the bones in his face. PSR Pilcrow 61, Mr. Maxwell was ridiculed throughout his childhood. The mockery he faced led to incessant bullying, constant physical altercations, depression, feelings of insecurity and constant anxiety that impacted his schooling. PSR Pilcrow 43 and 66, the public schools that Mr. Maxwell attended were considered the worst in the city. He was constantly made to feel that he was not good enough by both his classmates and elders in the community, including his teachers and school administrators. PSR Pilcrow 59, he recalls being told by school officials that he would never amount to anything. This, coupled with the daily abuse he suffered at the hands of his peers and teachers, ultimately led to Mr. Maxwell dropping out of school in the 10th grade. He tried to enlist in the United States Marine Corps, but his eye condition disqualified him. Rejected at every turn, Mr. Maxwell began sleeping in cars or at parks. During these years, he began using controlled substances and would sometimes appear at the family home because he was in need of a meal. PSR Pilcrow 59, he also fathered several children in his late teens and early 20s and was unable to hold a job for an extended period of time. Overall, he was struggling to find his place in a city plagued with crime and drugs. Inside Mr. Maxwell, however, there was a true work ethic that surfaced as he matured. In or about 2013, Mr. Maxwell devoted himself to music and began recording songs with 2 of his friends. The trio was known as Remy Boys. Mr. Maxwell promoted the group through social media and by selling clothing that depicted the logo Remy 1738 Boys. He also gave away compact discs to gain greater exposure. In 2014, Mr. Maxwell rose to fame as a solo artist under the name Fetty Wap when his song Trap Queen became an overnight sensation. Suddenly the kid from Paterson, New Jersey who was told he would never amount to anything was thrust into the national spotlight. He signed with a large record label known as 300 Entertainment and began touring the world. He appeared on national television and received prestigious awards in the music industry. He was collaborating with the world's most famous musical artists and making enough money to support everyone in his circle. PSR Pilcrow 76, and that is exactly what he did. 1 https://www.neighborhoodscout.com/nj/Patterson/crime description case 2:21 CR00452JS SIL document 183 filed May 17, 2023 page 2 of 6 page ID hash 804 Honorable Joanna Sabert United States District Judge May 17, 2023 3 in 2015. Mr. Maxwell purchased a 5-bedroom home for his family in Stockbridge, Georgia where parents still reside. He recalls how excited they all were when they moved into the house and had their first holiday. Mr. Maxwell was able to give his parents and siblings the home they never had in a neighborhood far away from the crime and drugs of Paterson, New Jersey. But that was just the beginning of his generosity. He paid the rent at his siblings' apartments, leases for family cars, tuition for higher education and financed the purchases of businesses so they could be gainfully employed. By all accounts, Mr. Maxwell was extremely generous with his time and money. Although he made enough money to purchase lavish items for himself, he did not. Rather, he spent his money supporting the people he loved and making certain that he was able to see them regularly. But his generosity did not end with his parents and siblings. As reflected in the PSR, Mr. Maxwell was generous with all of his children as well. In total, Mr. Maxwell has fathered 9 children with 7 different women. Remarkably, these women all report that he is a devoted father who provided financial support without question or hesitation. He never missed a birthday or a Christmas with any of his children, and given their physical locations, that was not a small accomplishment. Mr. Maxwell takes great pride in being able to support his children and the relationships he has developed with them. As reflected in the PSR, his children love him deeply and feel a tremendous void due to his absence. As Mr. Maxwell became more comfortable in his own skin, he chose to share his experiences with others who faced the relentless bullying he endured in school. He provided a voice for those who needed him by visiting them at home, schools or hospitals to provide support. He also regularly donated his time and money to the Patterson community. PSR Pilgro 57, the very powerful letters written in support of Mr. Maxwell detail numerous acts of charity. They also detail the adversities he faced as a child. These letters are written by family members, work colleagues, neighbors and friends. As such, they provide insight to who Mr. Maxwell is as a person and why he is deserving of the requested sentence. 2. Mr. Maxwell's involvement in the charged case in or about 2020. With the coming of the worldwide pandemic, things began to change for Mr. Maxwell. There were no opportunities to perform, thus his income was severely limited. He was sued personally, was going through a divorce, and was involved with a tour manager who was stealing from him. While the bills kept coming in, the money to pay them was running out. At or about the same time, Mr. Maxwell lost his grandparents and several other people who were close to him. Depression and panic began to set in. As stated, Mr. Maxwell took enormous pride in his ability to provide for his children and lend support to his other family members. He is described as a people pleaser and a person who gains great satisfaction from taking care of others. Suddenly it felt like life was going in reverse and he became ashamed when he began to struggle to keep up the lifestyle that he created for so many. PSR Pilgro 55, his judgment became impaired. Desperate to keep up with his financial obligations, Mr. Maxwell became involved in the instant offense for a few months in the spring of 2020. There is no allegation that Mr. Maxwell possessed a firearm in connection with this case or that he was involved with any drug other than cocaine. Case 2:21CR00452JS SIL Document 183 filed May 17, 2023 page 3 of 6 page ID hash 805 Honorable Joanna Sabert United States District Judge May 17, 2023 4 Prior to his arrest, but after his involvement in the charged conduct, Mr. Maxwell continued to suffer significant personal tragedies. In October of 2020, a person Mr. Maxwell viewed as a brother was shot and killed. He also experienced the loss of his 4-year-old daughter in August of 2021. He began to drink heavily and was suffering from severe depression. After his arrest, Mr. Maxwell was released on bail on November 5, 2021. During his time on bail, Mr. Maxwell worked extremely hard to set money aside for his child support obligations. He realized that he would be serving a term of incarceration and he wanted to make certain that his children were provided for while he was away. He took any performance that his agent could book. The work was not glamorous. Travel to and from these events often involved all-night road trips and the venues were not what they once were. That being said, Mr. Maxwell performed whenever he could and he put the money aside to provide for his children in his absence. 3. Conditions of incarceration at MDC. In determining a suitable sentence for Mr. Maxwell, the court can consider the conditions of his confinement. As an inmate at the MDC, Mr. Maxwell has been subjected to the harshest of conditions brought on as a result of institutional incompetence, corruption and the coronavirus pandemic. The MDC, which opened in the early 1990s to alleviate crowding at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, MCC, in Manhattan, has a long and well-documented history of problems, including a botched response to a week-long power failure in the winter of 2019, and an associate warden charged with killing her husband. MDC has been unfit for human habitation for a long time and the conditions continue to deteriorate. When the pandemic hit this country in March of 2020, the Bureau of Prisons, BOP, instituted a complete lockdown of its facilities. Inmates at all federal facilities were subjected to conditions of confinement far more punitive than the usual constraints of detention. Since the closing of the MCC in 2021, the MDC has been flooded with new inmates and the levels of crowding and violence have increased dramatically. Due to a lack of staffing and increased violence, lockdowns up to 23.5 hours a day are the norm and in-person and virtual counsel visits are regularly suspended. Moreover, the conditions of confinement that were brought on by the pandemic in large part continue. Mr. Maxwell has been detained at the MDC since he was remanded on August 8, 2022. Given his fame, Mr. Maxwell's time at the MDC has been particularly challenging. The prison has refused to put him in general population and has placed him in special housing with segregation. Although he has asked for months, They have refused to provide him with a CPAP machine for his sleep apnea. This has caused him unnecessary anxiety and stress. He is taunted by the guards on a daily basis with statements such as "You don't look so tough in here" and "Let's go 1738, it's time to perform." Although he has a spotless record, his belongings are constantly searched. No to an apparent reference to Remy 1738 boys. Case 2:21 CR00452 JS Cell Document 183 filed May 17, 2023, page 4 of 6, page ID hash 806. Honorable Joanna Sabert, United States District Judge, May 17, 2023. 5 Contraband has ever been found. Counsel firmly believes that certain guards are taunting Mr. Maxwell with the hope that he will retaliate. The maturity and mental resolve Mr. Maxwell has demonstrated in the face of this behavior has been extraordinary. 4. The application of the sentencing guidelines. Mr. Maxwell has pled guilty to a conspiracy to distribute at least 500 grams of cocaine, in violation of 21 U.S.C. Section 841, B1b. This crime carries a minimum term of imprisonment of 5 years. He was not charged in Count 2. The use of firearms in connection with a drug trafficking crime. The guideline calculation stipulated to by the parties calls for a range of incarceration of 87 to 108 months. This is based upon a total offense level of 29 and a criminal history category of I. The probation department has arrived at the same calculation, and has recommended a sentence of 72 months. Notably, co-defendant Anthony Sentier was sentenced by the court to a term of imprisonment of 72 months. Sentier was a corrections officer employed by the New Jersey Department of Corrections. He acted as a courier in this case. At the time of his arrest, he possessed a loaded firearm, which was his service weapon, as well as his New Jersey Department of Correction badge and credentials. Sentier admitted to law enforcement that he intended to use his credentials and position as a correction officer to facilitate his participation in the crime and avoid responsibility. Sentier pled guilty to Count 1, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, and Count 2, possession of a firearm in connection with a drug trafficking crime. As part of his plea agreement, Sentier stipulated to a guideline range of 147 to 168 months. The probation department, however, determined that his guideline range of imprisonment was 106 to 117 months. Sentier's mandatory minimum, and effective guideline range, for Count 2 was 60 months imprisonment. As the court imposed a total sentence of 72 months, it can be concluded that Sentier received a sentence of 12 months for his participation in the narcotics conspiracy charged in Count 1. Mr. Maxwell has also pled guilty to Count 1, but faces a statutory 5-year mandatory minimum. In fashioning the appropriate sentence, that court can consider the disparity of the sentences imposed upon the defendants for the same count. Case 2:21 CR00452 JS Cell Document 183 filed May 17, 2023, page 5 of 6, page ID hash 807. Honorable Joanna Sabert, United States District Judge, May 17, 2023. 6v Conclusion. Mr. Maxwell acknowledges the seriousness of his crime and the impact it has had on the people he loves. 3 years has passed since this crime was committed and Mr. Maxwell realizes the terrible mistake he made. He is truly sorry for the loss and hurt he has caused. What makes this case unusual is Mr. Maxwell's motivation. Personal gain was not his motivation. Rather, he was motivated by his commitment to financially support others. He now realizes that he does not have to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders. He has grown and learned from his mistake. His family has seen Mr. Maxwell mature and become more self-aware in the past several months without the distractions that weighed on him previously. They are convinced he will do things differently upon his release. PSR Pilcrow 59, given the tremendous amount of support he has, and his determination to do better, Mr. Maxwell is not at risk for recidivism. For the foregoing reasons, it is respectfully requested that this court sentence Mr. Maxwell to 5 years of incarceration, the mandatory minimum sentence allowable by law in this case. I thank Your Honor for her consideration in this matter. Respectfully submitted, Elizabeth E. Macedonio, Counsel for the defendant Willie Jr. Maxwell, 2. SIL document 183 to 1 filed May 17, 2023, page 1 of 27, page ID hash 809, January 17, 2023. Dear Judge Sabert, my name is Doria Maxwell. I am writing this letter on behalf of my son, Willie Maxwell. I do not know where or how to begin telling you how much our family is hurting since his incarceration. Our family has never experienced anything like this. We are all broken without him. We had very little, but we were still a very close-knit family. We struggled for many years and lived in inadequate housing, but we always had each other. Our family consists of his father, 3 sisters, a brother, and myself. We were in church 3 times every week and twice on Sundays. The love of family, music, food, and laughter is who we are. I wish to speak to you from the point of view of a mother. Ever since Willie was born, I felt I had to protect him from people. The hospital sent us home with a beautiful baby boy who cried every day, with a swollen eye and a damaged cornea. After about 6 weeks, we took him to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where we learned he had congenital glaucoma. By the time we got a diagnosis, the pressure in his eye was extremely high, which caused his eye to be severely swollen. He was in constant pain. After a few surgeries, we were told they couldn't save his eye and had to remove it. The doctors told us his eye had reached the size of an adult's eye, and if we had not removed it when we did, he would have risked the chance of his eye rupturing in his head. He was around 5 months old. We were grateful it was only in one eye but afraid that our baby had to have his eye removed. Directly after surgery, when Willie woke up, he looked up at me and smiled for the first time. Can you imagine? I was overjoyed to see my baby smile, yet it broke my heart to know he suffered so much pain for the first months of his life. He got his prosthetic eye the next month. We were elated that Willie would blend in with no more crazy questions or stares. As he got older, the prosthetics fit him properly, or they would get stuck in a particular position. Adults and children would stare and walk up to him and say the most insensitive things such as, "EWW, what happened to your eye?" Even some distant family members would yell and say harsh things to him because he would knock things over, or bump into them because he only has a peripheral vision on one side. He had to build up a hard exterior fast because the physical and mental abuse he endured got worse over time. Case 2:21-CR00452-JS SIL document 183 to 1 filed May 17, 2023, page 2 of 27, page ID hash 810. Even the principal from the elementary school where he should have felt safe and protected literally called him One-Eyed Willie. Despite all these issues with his health, poverty, and mental and physical abuse, it didn't break him. All he wanted was to better himself and his family. Willie has done that beyond our imagination. He's one of the most generous individuals I know. He's so trusting and loving that he gets taken advantage of often. He always tries to help so that people don't have to endure similar traumas. Willie truly has a heart of gold. I believe he tries to help everyone he can. Willie made it possible for his father and me to retire in 2015. He bought a house in Georgia, where we currently reside. He takes care of all the utilities and makes sure we have transportation. He has completely changed our lives, and we would not be able to live the life we have now if not for his selflessness. He has helped many other children who have also lost an eye and given them the courage to remove their prostheses and be themselves. It is very important that a child can be comfortable and confident in their skin in today's time. There are children who are inspired by my son. Some of their dying wishes were to meet him, and he made that happen. He was there for them and their families. He loves children. His children miss him sorely. He has inspired young men who have gotten in trouble with the law. They've completely turned their lives around and are now productive adults. He has given many people chances at a better life. Without Willie, some people would have never been outside New Jersey or toured the United States or the world. He reminded them there is something bigger and better out there, and you just have to work hard and strive for it. That is something no one has ever done for him. He never let his limiting circumstances stop him from reaching his goals. He could have easily used his circumstances as an excuse, but he didn't. Through adversity, he rose against the odds. Not only did he set out to do better and to be better, but Willie also set out to prove all the doubters wrong, and he did. Despite what the detractors said about him, Willie is a great man who has overcome circumstances that would be impossible for others. He took opportunities and made the best of what he had and changed many lives, including his own. I implore you not to reference the file describing my son as a monster, as this misrepresents his true character. My son is so much more than just a label. He is a hard-working and caring individual who embodies the roles of a loving father, devoted brother, doting son, and loyal friend. Case 2:21 CR00452 JS Cell Document 183-1 filed May 17, 2023, page 3 of 27, page ID hash 811. As a concerned parent, I humbly appeal to your sense of compassion and ask that you show leniency in deciding the fate of my son. He is a good-hearted individual who has made mistakes, and I believe he deserves a second chance. I guarantee, based on the time he has spent behind bars already, Willie has had adequate time to reflect on the mistakes of his past, and he will likely not find himself in another compromising predicament such as this again. When we studied for our driver's license exam and road test, we read that our license is a privilege, not a right. As individuals who deeply value the precious gift of freedom, we promise to never take it for granted or misuse it. It is our sincere responsibility to always act in a way that honors this treasured privilege. Especially now after having had it taken away. Humbly submitted, Doria Maxwell.
Willie, no! Looks like Willie shouldn't have sold cocaine. And Willie wouldn't be doing 6 years right now. What's good, everybody? Make sure you guys hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. Hope everyone's having a great night. And I just wanted to get this case out there real quick. I'm working on something big for you guys. Got a bunch of things I'm going to be dropping very soon. But I hope you guys like this little clip about Willie. Fetty Wap. So I'm going to be dropping some more stuff tomorrow. I got some major things coming. Hit the like, subscribe, notification bell. And remember, don't be a bitch. Bitch.
I'll tell judge and prosecutor to suck my dick like I done before. Okay?